I'm very excited to talk to you today because what I'm about to share with you is something that completely changed my life, and I believe it can change you too. Today I want to talk to you about morning habits that change everything. And I want you to understand that these habits are not just small routines. They are powerful actions that, when done consistently, compound into extraordinary results in your life, your business, your relationships, and your personal growth. One of the first and most important habits is waking up early, because the quiet hours of the morning are like a blank canvas where your mind is free from distractions, where your energy is pure, and where your creativity is at its highest. I remember in the early days of Alibaba, I would wake up at 5 a.m., sometimes even 4:30 a.m., while the rest of the world was still asleep, and I would sit in my small office alone thinking deeply about the problems that seemed unsolvable during the day. One morning, for instance, I woke up before dawn and wrote down all the reasons why Alibaba could fail, and then I wrote strategies to prevent each of those failures. And by the time my team arrived at 9 a.m., I had clarity, direction, and confidence that allowed us to move faster than any competitor. Waking up early is not just about time, it's about claiming control over your day before the world dictates your schedule. And this simple habit separates people who are reactive from those who are proactive. The second habit is meditation or focused reflection, which may seem unusual for an entrepreneur running a fast-growing company, but taking 10-15 minutes each morning to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and observe your thoughts trains your mind to respond instead of react, to think instead of panic, and to plan instead of being distracted. I practiced this habit diligently during the period when Alibaba was struggling to survive against larger competitors. And it was during one of these early morning meditation sessions that I realized the key to growth was not competing head-on with larger companies, but creating a new market space that only Alibaba could dominate. Because I took time to reflect, I could see opportunities that others missed, and I approached negotiations and decisions calmly, which eventually helped secure partnerships that seemed impossible at the time. The third habit is exercise. And it does not have to be extreme or time-consuming, but the consistent movement of your body in the morning awakens not just your muscles, but your mind, your energy, and your discipline. I remember days when I skipped exercise and found myself sluggish, irritable, and mentally foggy. And other days when I ran or did simple stretches and push-ups, feeling invigorated, alert, and capable of tackling even the most complex business challenges. Exercise in the morning sends a message to your body and mind that you are disciplined, that you respect yourself, and that you are ready to face the day with energy. And over time, this builds resilience, not only physically, but mentally. Alongside exercise, the fourth habit is journaling and setting intentions for the day. Because writing down what you want to achieve, what your priorities are, and what kind of person you want to be allows your subconscious mind to focus on solutions instead of problems. I remember mornings when I would write down my goals for Alibaba, even when they seemed impossible, such as reaching new international markets or convincing foreign investors to trust a small Chinese startup. By committing my intentions to paper and visualizing their success, my decisions, conversations, and actions throughout the day were aligned with those goals, creating a sense of inevitability that eventually translated into real-world success. The fifth habit is reading or learning something new every morning, even if it's just for 15-20 minutes, because your mind is like a sponge in the early hours, absorbing ideas, inspiration, and knowledge that later fuel innovation and decision-making. I spent countless mornings reading about technology trends, entrepreneurship, leadership, and even philosophy, and many of the ideas I absorbed in these quiet hours became the foundation for business strategies, negotiation tactics, and problem-solving techniques that propelled Alibaba forward. One specific example was reading about the rise of e-commerce in the West and realizing that the same concept could transform China, which led to the creation of Taobao and an entirely new industry. The sixth habit is gratitude. Taking a moment to recognize the things you already have, the people who support you, and the opportunities that exist in your life, because this mindset transforms challenges into lessons and setbacks into fuel for growth. Every morning I make a list of 3 things I am grateful for, whether it's my team, the opportunity to serve customers, or even small successes from the previous day. And this simple act creates a positive emotional foundation that influences every interaction, decision, and challenge throughout the day. I remember a time when we faced enormous difficulties in securing funding, and instead of despairing, I focused on gratitude for the small wins and supportive partners we had, which gave me the perseverance and optimism to continue negotiating until we succeeded. The 7th habit is planning your energy, not just your tasks, because knowing when you are most alert, creative, and focused allows you to tackle high-value activities at the right time and leave less critical tasks for when your energy dips. I allocate the first few hours of my morning to strategic thinking, creative problem solving, and tasks that require deep concentration, leaving routine administrative work for later in the day. And this alignment with natural energy cycles has been one of the most overlooked yet powerful ways to maximize productivity. When you combine these habits, waking early, meditation, exercise, journaling, learning, gratitude, and energy planning, you create a compounding effect that changes not just your mornings, but your life. Imagine waking at 5 a.m., spending 10 minutes reflecting, 20 minutes exercising, 15 minutes journaling, 20 minutes learning something new, expressing gratitude, and planning your energy for the day. That single morning sets the tone for a week, a month, a year, and ultimately a lifetime of achievement. The impact of these habits is not abstract. I have lived them. I have seen them transform Alibaba from a small startup into a global leader, and I have seen countless entrepreneurs and leaders experience similar breakthroughs simply by mastering their mornings. These habits create clarity, focus, discipline, and resilience, qualities that cannot be outsourced, bought, or faked, and they give you control over your life, your decisions, and your future. Every action you take in those early hours compounds, and the more consistent you are, the more unstoppable you become. Even small steps, when repeated daily, lead to extraordinary outcomes. I have observed that the people who achieve greatness are not necessarily the most talented or the most intelligent, but those who have mastered their mornings because they start the day with intention, clarity, and energy. One morning habit I implemented was to write down 3 impossible goals for Alibaba each day, and while it seemed like a simple exercise, over time it trained my mind to think bigger, take calculated risks, and focus relentlessly on what truly mattered, and this single habit led to breakthroughs that seemed unattainable to others. Another habit I recommend is to combine learning with reflection. After reading for 20 minutes in the morning, I spend a few minutes thinking how to apply that knowledge to my current challenges, which transforms abstract ideas into practical action plans. For example, reading about supply chain optimization inspired me to rethink Alibaba's logistics strategy, which later became a critical factor in the company's rapid growth. I also emphasize that consistency is more important than intensity. Doing these habits for 10-15 minutes daily is more powerful than doing them sporadically for hours. The compounding effect of daily consistency cannot be overstated, because habits are like seeds planted in fertile soil. The more consistently you nurture them, the stronger and more fruitful they grow. And it is not just about work or business. These morning habits shape your emotional resilience, your relationships, your health, and your ability to lead. For instance, when facing a difficult conversation with a partner, employee, or investor, starting the day with meditation, gratitude, and journaling allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively, turning potential conflicts into opportunities for growth and understanding. Each habit reinforces the other. Waking early gives you time to meditate. Meditation clears your mind for exercise. Exercise energizes your body for journaling and learning. Journaling clarifies your priorities for gratitude, and gratitude sets the tone for planning your energy. Together, they create a self-reinforcing cycle of growth, productivity, and fulfillment. Even small deviations from this routine have noticeable effects. A day when I skip meditation or gratitude, I feel less focused, more reactive, and less creative, which shows how powerful and transformative these habits truly are. I also want to emphasize that morning habits are not rigid rules, but tools for mastery. You can adapt them to your life, but the principle remains: control your mornings and you control your life. Over the years, I have shared these habits with countless entrepreneurs, young leaders, and students,